Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? It is fantastic to be back with you this Friday, 8th of October, as I am every single Friday at 4 p.m. New Zealand time. It is awesome to be here with you today. And I'm very thankful to Klarna. I've got this cool cup. Even though I was only at Retail Global New Zealand this year for one day or one night before New Zealand went into level 4 lockdown, and I had to jump on a plane and come home. So I wasn't actually able to be there for the conference as planned. In my goodie bag was this awesome Klarna cup. And it's one of those insulated cups. So it's perfect for bourbon because you put a little bit of ice down in there and you put your bourbon down in there and it stays cold forever. And it's pretty much, it's like a rocks glass. It's like the perfect size for a bourbon. So cheers to Klarna. Thank you very much. That's an awesome little goodie bag gift. Sometimes those goodie bags are a bit hit and miss on some of the promo items that you get in there, but this one for me in particular was definitely a winner. So brilliant to be here with you today. Enough about bourbon, I suppose. It's a beautiful sunshiny day here in Auckland today. It's good to be with you as always every Friday, and we'll jump into the week's news, and then at the end, I'll keep an eye out on your comments and your questions, and then we'll come back to that at the end and hopefully have a little bit of a convo if any of you have left any feedback on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or Facebook Live, where we multi-stream every single week at this time. So I'll jump straight into the digital and e-com and omnichannel news of the week and give you my hot take. I've really actually enjoyed, just before we get into that, I've been getting much more active on TikTok and doing short, less than 1 minute TikTok videos almost every day, actually. I try not to skip too often. I try to be consistent with any of the content that I choose to do. And I've been really actually enjoying being able to create those posts on TikTok, not only because the reach on TikTok is so good, and not only can I reuse that content across other short video platforms like YouTube Shorts and like Instagram Reels, but it forces you to condense your thinking down into sub 1 minute sound bites. And, for someone that likes to talk and hear their own voice as much as I do, that's always a struggle. Hey, Paul, great to see you here from It Works. Awesome to have you along for the ride today. Cool to have you here. But yeah, it's always fun to try to squeeze something that I want to say down into 1 minute or less. But it's been a fun ride. I have really enjoyed doing it, and the videos seem to be getting a fair bit of traction. So keep doing it as long as everybody keeps wanting to see them. I guess I'll keep doing them and just add it to my list of content that I'm trying to be consistent with every single week. So without further ado, we will get into the news of the week. And a piece of news that I actually made a post about this morning on LinkedIn, but you may not have seen it, is that Amazon is reportedly working on a smart fridge that tracks what's inside. And this was reported by TechCrunch and a couple of other major news outlets. But what they plan on doing is bringing the tech that they use at the cashierless Amazon Go stores to the kitchen. And this was initially reported by Insider. And according to them, the company has been working on a smart fridge that can monitor items, help you order replacements if you're running low on something. And the team behind Amazon Go, the Amazon Go systems, is said to be heading the charge on the project, which has been in the works for at least 2 years. The Just Walk Out tech used at Go stores tracks what shoppers put in their carts, of course, and automatically charges them when they leave. And the fridge would monitor items inside, keep tabs on the purchasing habits of the user. And if you were to run low on something that you buy frequently, the fridge would notify you and make it easier to order more from Whole Foods and Amazon Fresh, which could give the company's grocery division a boost. The fridge can even offer recipe suggestions, apparently, which may prove useful if you forget about an item that's about to expire. Amazon, of course, would not manufacture the fridges themselves. They're working with an appliance manufacturer to get those contract manufactured. And of course, there's always the likelihood that the Alexa voice control would be built right in. And so obviously Amazon has built Alexa into pretty much every piece of hardware they've had anything to do with, including their home robots, TVs, etc. So it'd be a surprise if Alexa wasn't included in the fridge more than if it was. And apparently, according to Insider, the company has reportedly spent upwards of $50 million per year on the project so far. And for me personally, this is somewhat of a personal victory lap, given that I've been talking about stealth commerce since early 2019 when I put out my first article about stealth commerce and actually coined that term in a article that I wrote on LinkedIn in early 2019, in February 2019, in fact, where I started to describe these frictionless transactions that were facilitated by smart devices like smart fridges. And I actually called out specifically that smart fridges would be on that agenda in terms of the smartification of the world and the automation of e-commerce transactions to the point where customers no longer recognize them as a transaction. So good on Amazon. It's going to be interesting to watch this actually come to light and see the light of day and see just exactly what this thing can do. I suspect that it's going to be a pretty amazing bit of kit. If Amazon's behind it and if they're using their Go technology, I have no doubt that it'll be pretty incredible and do some pretty awesome stuff. So looking forward to checking it out when it actually comes out. Now, the next bit of news is about about Ireland and what Ireland has decided to do. The Republic of Ireland has decided to increase its corporate tax rate to 15%. Now, this has been reported all over the tech news, primarily because Ireland's low tax rate of corporate tax rate, that is, of 12.5%, one of the lowest, if not, I think it may have even been the lowest in the OECD, obviously was a major attractant. It was a major magnet for multinational tech companies to base themselves in Ireland because of that tax rate. Now, of course, that brought not only the businesses there, but it brought massive employment opportunities there. And of course, even though their tax rates were relatively low, it still meant that they were actually able to collect tax from these businesses because they were domiciled there. So going to be interesting to see what this does to the major tech companies. I mean, we have Google with headquarters there. We've got Facebook with headquarters there. We've got pretty much I think even part of Apple's business is headquartered there because of the low tax rate, so domiciled there for tax purposes. So it'd be very interesting to see what chilling effect this might have on the big tech companies, either deciding to move out of Ireland or fewer tech companies deciding to come to Ireland in the first place because they're raising their tax rate to 15%. Now, this seems somewhat punitive, and it seems sort of like the OECD put the pressure on them to do this, and it seems like there was perhaps some dodgy dealing behind the scenes. It's always hard to say with this sort of stuff, but certainly the OECD was putting massive pressure on them to join the ranks of the rest of the OECD with a minimum tax rate of 15%. And of course, Ireland is saying that this is a big win for the Irish people, and that this means that the government will have more money to look after the Irish people. Now, whether that extra money actually makes it into the Irish people's hands probably remains to be seen. But it also seems a little bit punitive in that this will apply to businesses. For firms with a turnover of more than 750 million euro or 363 million pounds. So I guess we'll see how this rate sort of plays out across different sizes and stages of companies and what this does to the structure of Ireland's economy. It says they've called out the fact that the 15% rate will now apply to 56 Irish multinationals employing approximately 100,000 people and 1,500 foreign-owned firms based in Ireland employing approximately 400,000 people. So we're talking in total 500 million people affected by this, or at least their parent companies affected by this. So, hopefully it doesn't mean a mass exodus from Ireland, and hopefully those 500,000 people aren't left looking for a job after this happens. And so it says more than 100 countries supported the initial OECD proposal where they were announced in July. However, Ireland did not sign up at that time, objecting to a proposal to set a rate of at least 15%. It argued that this would cause uncertainty, as it could mean the rate rising further in the future. And that's absolutely right. The OECD hasn't said anything around these minimum rates being sort of the absolute floor. They say that the initial stage is 15%, but who knows? This could go up to 18%, 20%. We just don't know what the OECD is going to do. But certainly it's going to reduce the attractiveness, if nothing else, for Ireland as a major offshore power center for these multinational companies. So let's just see how this plays out. Now, the next piece of news is that the United States Postal Service, or the USPS as it's fondly known, suspends mail deliveries to the whole of ANZ, so Australia and New Zealand. And they said on their website, they announced that on their website this week, they were temporarily suspending international mail acceptance for a number of destinations, including Australia and New Zealand. This was due to impacts related to COVID-19 pandemic and other unrelated service disruptions in addition to that. Now, we obviously know that October 1 to October the 7th, Aussie Post stopped accepting collections from e-commerce businesses because their network was under strain and they could not deliver. So therefore, they were just putting a pause on collections from e-commerce businesses. And obviously, this is having a massive trickle down effect internationally as inbound parcels come in from overseas countries like the United States. And then, of course, it has to be picked up by the flag carrier, in this case, Australia Post in Australia or New Zealand Post in New Zealand. And then the last mile delivery is delivered by those local postal services. And obviously, if they're buckling at the seams under domestic demand, then it stands to reason that this is going to have a knock on effect to international delivery times to our region. So, remains to be seen when this will pick back up again. I haven't seen any announcements that they're going to open back up deliveries to ANZ, and they said that basically anything that gets shipped to these destinations will simply be returned to sender as undeliverable. So let's just see how this plays out. You know, the world global supply chain, not only due to COVID, but due to employee shortages across major modes of transport, trains, planes, automobiles, lorries, trucks, etc. That's putting massive pressure on the global supply chain, not only from a manufacturing, but also a logistics and shipping perspective with boats and planes being affected. So we'll just see. I think, you know, I see this playing out. I think this Christmas is going to be a write-off for a lot of businesses. I think it's going to be a really difficult time. I think Black Friday, Cyber Monday are going to be write-off for a lot of businesses simply because they can't get enough stock for the demand, which is probably going to, you know, have a positive flow-on effect in terms of their bottom line and profitability, because they won't have to discount as much because they simply don't have enough stock anyway. So why would you discount something when you don't even have enough stock to supply all the demand? So it's probably going to have a positive impact on margins, but it's probably going to have some potential brand damage for those brands that just simply can't keep up with demand and have to either, you know, delist products from their website or push them out of stock or put them on back order, etc. So it's going to be a challenging year as we head into the end of the year, the busy season part of the year. I mean, we're already as busy this year now, pre-Christmas, as we were last year, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Christmas. So at least in the ANZ region anyway, we're seeing absolutely continually elevated demand across the e-commerce sector. And so the major carriers around the world are really struggling to keep up with that. So let's just keep an eye on that and see how it eventually ultimately plays out. In this vein, and this report comes from Power Retail, Australian online sales went through the roof in August. And it says online sales have continued to grow as Australia's largest states, Victoria and New South Wales, battle ongoing lockdowns. What's more, it looks like this trend is set to continue even after Christmas is over. A record of $44.2 billion was spent online in August alone. That is just a staggering figure. And they say that was according to new figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This is an increase of 15.1% month on month and 36.4% compared to August last year. So just over 15% month on month and over 36% year on year increase in e-commerce sales. That is just phenomenal. And it called out the fact that specifically non-food related online sales increased by 16.3% month on month and up 39.2% year over year. And that the omni-channel investments that retailers have put in over the last 2 years in particular have paid off with the astonishing growth in online, said Paul Zara, the CEO of the Australian Retailers Association. And he goes on to say, many Australians are turning to the internet for their shopping in a big way, with so many of us subject to stay-at-home orders, and that is reflected in the ABS figures released today, with online sales in August going through the roof. This elevated level of online spending is likely to continue right through to Christmas, and Australians should make plans to shop early this year. Well, I think that's going to be a challenge considering the fact that Australians are shopping early already. Clearly, these numbers show Australians are shopping early, and Aussie Post can't keep up with the demand and can't actually get things to them. So, yeah, I think you know, if Australia Post continues to shut down collections from e-commerce merchants, then yeah, people are just going to have to get their orders in, and they're just going to have to cross their fingers that it gets to them in time for, say, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, etc. So, watch this space. And it says that this report, in conjunction with Roy Morgan, the ARA has forecast that 48% of Christmas shopping will be done online this year. Now, that is nearly 50% of retail shopping forecasted for Christmas will be done online. Now, considering that pre-pandemic, roughly 15% of all Aussie retail was done online, or 15% of all Aussie retail was e-commerce, for that to jump to 48% for Christmas is just a staggering increase. Now, of course, we don't know exactly how this is going to play out. We don't know whether lockdowns will end in time for Christmas and how, you know, I mean, 48% seems awfully ambitious. To go from sort of that circa 15 to 20% to way more than double that to 48% is just, you know, it feels super ambitious, but I guess time will tell. And it's always difficult to know what sort of modeling these guys are doing when they come up with these figures, and sort of feels like they pluck numbers out of the air. But let's just see how this all plays out. But it wouldn't surprise me if, particularly if Victoria and New South Wales continue to be locked down the way that they have been, then people don't really have a choice. They got to shop online. They got a bit of a gun to their head to move all that shopping online. So let's just watch out and see how that plays out. Now, the next piece of news is really something that is becoming a trend, which was originally a fad. Now it's turning into a trend. So David Jones adds luxury resale to its catalog. And again, this is a report from Power Retail. Now, this follows the announcement that I made last week that The Iconic out of Australia was adding resale to its functionality, to its website, and to its app functionality. So clearly, this whole new generation of particularly fast fashion buyers in particular, and luxury fast fashion buyers, those two wouldn't normally go in the same sentence, but they oftentimes are targeting a similar demographic. And what this says here is, it says the David Jones is the next retailer to jump on the resale bandwagon with the launch of its new partnership with Blue Spinach, which I've never heard of Blue Spinach before. Don't know exactly what their tech does, but it obviously facilitates resale. And it says, we've said it once and we'll say it again. We're currently in the midst of a vintage renaissance. Now David Jones is adding its name to the mix. David Jones is supporting the circular fashion cycle with this new platform, which will sell designer goods from brands including Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Celine, Prada, and Fendi, amongst others. This collection is sure to attract the lovers of designer and luxury goods, especially with the younger generation who've welcomed the resale category with open arms. And they've called it the Mindfully Made Edit. So, congratulations on them bringing that sort of opportunity to customers of theirs to resell their products and sort of upcycle and recycle their products into other people's hands at a big discount. It means that hopefully less products will actually ultimately have to be manufactured if we can sort of circular economy those items. So, exciting opportunity for them, exciting opportunity for Iconic, and I wish them well. I hope they see a massive uptake of this service. Now, the next report comes out of the UK, out of Charge Retail, and this was a pretty staggering figure. I didn't think it would be this high, but it says 1 in 10 UK shoppers have used TikTok for online shopping. Now that's 10% is a pretty staggering number. TikTok is fast becoming a go-to shopping destination, as new research reveals that nearly 10% of UK shoppers have used the app to make an online purchase. Social media apps, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, have collectively piled billions into driving e-commerce offerings. And they say nearly 30% of shoppers surveyed said they have typically started their shopping journey on Instagram, alongside 18% on Facebook and 7% on Snapchat. Over a third, or 36%, said they had purchased an item of clothing by clicking on a social advert or post in the last year, with a further 54% stating they plan to purchase clothing online more in the next 6 months than the prior 6 months. And this is despite the fact that a third of UK shoppers said they were concerned about privacy when shopping on social platforms. Seems kind of oxymoronic, doesn't it? It's noteworthy that a considerable amount of UK shoppers have used TikTok, a relatively new app, to start their fashion shopping journey, especially when you compare it to the likes of Facebook or Snapchat, which have been around for many years longer. Kroup's UK managing director, Emil Belinsky, said. This suggests that the age of a social platform is not a barrier to its success in e-commerce. Rather, it comes down to the experience it can provide to the right audiences on the app. Now, this falls in line very much with the fact that TikTok shopping has come out of beta over the last week and a half. And so obviously at the first part of the year, TikTok was doing its shopping beta program with Shopify exclusively. It's recently come out of beta. What does that mean? Well, it means that many other tech and other platforms, including BigCommerce and PrestaShop and many other e-commerce platforms and backend platforms, will be able to directly list via integration with TikTok, directly list that brand owners' products on their TikTok profile under the shopping tab, as well as be able to tag those products in organic content that the brand posts on TikTok, so that people can follow those products through to the merchant's website to complete that transaction. Now that is definitely in-app shopping, but it is not in-app purchasing. So TikTok still has a lot of friction there, not being able to complete the transaction in the app. However, its sister platform, Douyin, in China does support in-app purchasing. So I suspect in less than 18 months, we will have a full end-to-end shopping, and not just shopping, but shopping and buying experience on TikTok for e-commerce brands around the world, probably in less than 18 months. So watch the space. Now, next report, also out of the UK from Charged Retail, it says that 1 in 5 UK shoppers, or more than 1 in 5 UK shoppers, don't believe. Sorry about that. My dog's barking in the background there. 1 in 5 UK shoppers don't believe the high street is worth saving. Now, again, a little bit of a staggering number, but not necessarily so, given what we've faced over the last 18 months with high street being shut down and people having sometimes their first experience. I think the last statistics coming out of the UK is that well over 500,000 new consumers shopped online for the very first time since the beginning of the pandemic. So it means that people are trying out e-commerce. They're enjoying it. They've had no choice due to lockdowns, but once they try it for the first time, they dip their toes in the water, and oftentimes they like it, which this report is actually showing that they won't lament the loss of the high street. 21% of UK shoppers don't believe that the high street is worth saving, as they do the bulk of their shopping online now, according to a study by Savu. The pandemic has forced shoppers online, which I just said. The spending habits of a nation have changed as a result, with only 42% of consumers returning to their old shopping habits. And this is even after retail reopens, or physical retail reopens. So this figure has decreased 16% since pre-pandemic. Prior to lockdown, 59% of UK consumers were shopping in real life at least once a week, with more than a quarter, or 27% of people, purchasing items on the high street at least 2 to 3 times per week. Daily high street shopping has fallen by 3% during the pandemic, down from its original 6% pre-lockdown. The figure has only increased a little over 1% so far after the easing of lockdowns. The amount of retail space of the high street is also declining, with many locations being turned into housing or office space. And it says, on average, 53% of high street is being taken up by residential space, compared with retail's 34%. So, this is, again, this is something that was maybe a bit of what people thought might be a little bit of a fad because of lockdowns, etc. This has fundamentally, structurally changed the buying habits of consumers, and a larger percent of them are now preferring to shop online because they've now got their taste. They've got their beak wet, and they're seeing how well it can work and how convenient it can be. And this obviously takes into account hybrid shopping and omni-channel shopping models like click and collect, etc. So, it takes into account all those different omni-channel models as that percentage of retail continues to increase. Those omni-channel and digital models. Now, the next couple of stories all relate to Facebook, and Facebook has had a pretty bloody tough week this week. When we take into account the outage they had earlier in the week on Monday U.S. time, and then the whistleblower revelations coming out on Tuesday, they've just had a pretty tough week all the way around. Not that I feel too bad. Zuckerberg's still obviously a multi-billionaire, so I don't think we need to shed too much of a tear for him. But collectively, the business has taken a bit of a battering. So let's start out with that massive outage U.S. time on Monday. There's been a few different reports and a few different estimates of the damage that it's done to Facebook as a brand, as well as their pocketbook. It says the downtime likely cost Facebook a pretty penny in lost advertising revenue. The company took home $84.2 billion from ads in 2020 alone, and Fortune estimates that Facebook lost nearly $100 million on Monday alone, based on the company's quarterly revenue numbers. The share price, of course, was hammered as a result, stripping billions of company CEO Mark Zuckerberg's personal fortune. Forbes reported that Zuckerberg lost about $5.9 billion off the back of the global outage. Now, obviously, that's a bit of a misnomer. He only lost if he sold during that time, which I suspect that he did not. So, he may have lost $5.9 billion on paper, but as soon as the share price bounces back, then those paper losses will be erased. So I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that he lost $5.9 billion there. However, on paper, he absolutely did. Now, this still leaves Zuckerberg with a staggering fortune of about a US $117 billion. The company's share price slipped nearly 5% on the back of the outage. Now, I did some digging. I looked at the share price trend as well. And basically what I saw there is that the share price had been trending down for the last month from around an average of about $378 a share, ending up at a low during the outage of around $326 a share on Monday. It's now back up to around $329 a share currently. So, the downtrend was kind of already in over the last month anyway, but Monday's outage certainly did not do them any favors in terms of their share price. Now, what's probably more worrying for the Zucks machine is the whistleblower announcements that happened this week. Pretty much every single major news outlet reported this. I pulled some key comments and some key quotes from CNBC, and they called out the fact that Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen testified before a Senate panel Tuesday, telling lawmakers they must intervene to solve the crisis created by her former employer's products. I listened to a bit of her testimony across a few different podcasts and a few other places where they were playing it, and she sounded very reasonable. She wasn't calling for Facebook to be shut down or Facebook to be broken up. She was calling for some pretty reasonable measures based on at least the short snippets of testimony that I heard. She's calling for basically more transparency around how Facebook makes its decisions, how its algorithm makes its decisions, and more importantly, how Facebook, when it basically commences research on a specific topic, like the recent research that was revealed that it was discovered that Instagram makes teen girls suicidal in many cases because of body image issues that the app produces with that demographic. Facebook looked to bury that research, and it was their own research that they paid for. So they're paying for research, always paying for probably, I'm guessing, hundreds of millions of dollars of research by independents and by universities and the like. And I guess what this whistleblower is effectively trying to say is Facebook needs to be a little bit more transparent about the research that they do and whether the outcomes of that research are good or bad for Facebook, and paint Facebook in a positive or a negative light. They should be transparent about what that research shows. Now, as a private company, they have no, they're a public company now, they're listed on the share market, but in terms of how they operate, they have no legal obligation to, I guess, reveal the results of the research. But I feel like they probably definitely do have a moral obligation, and certainly it's gonna start affecting their brand if they don't start playing ball in that respect. She said the former Facebook product manager for civic misinformation told lawmakers that Facebook consistently puts its own profits over users' health and safety, which is largely a result of its algorithm's design that steers users towards high engagement posts that in some cases can be more harmful. Though she stopped short of accusing top executives of intentionally creating harmful products, she said that ultimately CEO Mark Zuckerberg had to be responsible for the impact of his businesses. Haugen, who unmasked herself Sunday as the source behind leaked documents at the core of revealing Wall Street Journal series about Facebook called The Facebook Files, testified before the Senate Commerce Subcommittee on Consumer Protection. Haugen told CBS 60 Minutes in an interview aired this weekend that the problems she saw at Facebook were worse than anywhere else she had worked, which included Google, Yelp, and Pinterest. And so that's a pretty damning, indictment of Zuckerberg and Facebook. So, yeah, let's just see how this plays out. Zuckerberg is very much a Teflon Don. So let's just see how this ultimately plays out and see if any of the shit sticks to him. It tends not to. Congress has been loath up till now in the United States to put any, clampdowns on Facebook. It's been loath to take any punitive action. Europe has taken much more punitive action in terms of fines and damages against Google, Facebook, and other tech companies, including Apple. Europe has been far harder on these big tech companies than the United States has. So I guess we'll see how this latest round of bad news for Facebook plays out in the court of both public opinion and at the government and regulation side of things. So let's just see how that ultimately plays out. It certainly is doing no favors for their brand, but at the end of the day, more people than ever before are using their products across, particularly Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp. So let's just watch this space, I guess, is the key call out here. Now, we also, just as we come to the end of our time together, it's nearly 4:30 p.m. As we come to the end of our time together, episode 99 of the podcast dropped this week, and I had Lee Hardam from Browse on the podcast, and it was a fantastic podcast. I really like Lee. He's an awesome guy. I've known him for quite some time, and it's absolutely fantastic to have him on the podcast talking about his technology, talking about the multiple pivots he's had to take as a business owner and founder. And there was a massive learning experience there. It's an incredible SaaS platform. increasing immersive engagement with e-commerce brands and their customers, bridging that gap between physical retail and virtual. So go and check that out if you haven't listened. It's a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed my time with Lee, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. Again, thank you, John. Thank you, Paul, for joining the live stream today, and anybody else who joined the live stream but didn't make any comments yet. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I'll look forward to catching up with you guys here same time, same bat channel here next Friday. Have a fantastic weekend, all. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.